Haircut, dude. I look like a Muppet. I'm going to be doing this a lot. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. I think that the look, the hair is very distinguished, and as we know, both of us,
I put it on myself on my album cover pin.
That's right.
Marlin branding. This is what I call this. So it's me as a type.
Well, as we know, when you're growing out long hair, there's always an awkward transitional phase that just has to happen, and there's just no easy way around it.
You're right.
So there's invariably...
You got quite a mane yourself.
Yep. It's a hair club for men. Not sponsored, but hopefully in the future. Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have with us today the great, distinguished Mark Lettieri.
Well, thanks.
And fresh off of a residency at SF Jazz, and agreed to come here and allow us to interview and probe him about his and no innuendo intended on that.
It's all downhill from there.
About your work with Snarky Puppy, your solo work, and as we just heard, Fearless Flyers. Man, like I feel like this band, you know, from my perspective, came out of nowhere, hit so hard, took over the internet. Everybody was just like replaying that, reposting it. Right. You got kind of the super group, you, Corey Wong, Joe Dart, Nate Smith.
Yeah.
How did this whole thing come together? How did you get the call to do it? Right. How did this all come about?
Right. Well, the bit of a backstory, I think it was Jack Stratton from Wolfpack's idea. If that's wrong, please correct me in the comments. But I think that's who came up with the idea to have a band with guitars in 3 registers. So standard guitar, baritone guitar, bass, guitar, and then Nate Smith on drums. I think he'd maybe seen a clip of Nate playing or something. And anyway, so he tasked Corey with finding us, essentially. So obviously Joe was going to play bass, Corey's going to play guitar. They needed to get Nate, and they needed a baritone guy. And I had just kind of started doing these baritone funk Thursday videos on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and all that. And so I think they knew of me as the guitar player from Snarky Puppy, but maybe they didn't know that I had this baritone side. And so anyway, they saw the videos and they're like, well, that's that guy. We need to get him. And so Corey sent me an email kind of vaguely explaining the whole thing. I called him and I told him I wasn't interested. And then I had a brief chat with my spouse who was like, you'd be dumb if you didn't do this, you know. And I was really busy at the time, had a lot of other things going on, and just wasn't comfortable enough in the parameters of the project to just be like, yeah, I'm going to take on a new thing. So anyway, I called him. I was like, I don't know, man. And then apparently that really stressed him out. Like he was pretty bent out.
Who's going to be our baritone
for about 30 minutes. And then my wife talked me back into reality. And I called him back and I was like, hey man, this is going to be great. I'm sorry, you know, for the cause for alarm, but it's going to be awesome. So then we got together in LA. I guess this was 2018 when we did the first.
Right. And this is kind of at the kind of the early, or the studio where a lot of that Wolf stuff happened.
Yeah, well, I think so. I knew they did a lot. Scary Pockets did a lot of videos there.
Right, because of the connection bands, with Ryan Lerman, who Scary Pockets and yeah. Okay. And so that's where, what was the timeline like between like when that call occurred to like when we saw the music video?
Yeah, I think it was probably October of 17, and then or maybe November of 17 or something, and then January of 18 we did the recording, and then I guess it maybe came out a few months later.
Yeah.
And then we just sort of created this pattern of meeting every January at Ryan Lerman's studio and doing an EP, and now we did an EP with the horns. Well, actually, it's more of a full length. We did that at Sound City, I think. And then we just did this one at the Blue Note in New York. Mm-hmm. And so we're kind of branching out and changing things around, but it's still essentially the same concept, I think.
Now, one thing I noticed in that video, the guitar that was used at the time was what you were very closely associated with many years, the Grosh guitar.
Absolutely.
Which was great. In fact, we had shot some videos probably almost 10 years ago.
Some miles on that guitar.
But that guitar, although great, is still probably around the house somewhere.
That's right. Oh yeah. I'm never getting rid of that thing, so stop asking.
But you do have a signature instrument,
yes,
the PRS Fiore.
That is true.
And you have a few different colorways available. But can you just tell us really quickly for the gear nuts, the people like me that are into this sort of these sort of perverse things, what's the story with the guitar?
So the story with this guitar, I had started a relationship with PRS maybe in about 2016. Through their 594 McCarty guitar.
Okay. It's kind of their like Les Paul style.
Right, which really changed my perception about their guitars and their brand and how what incredible instruments they were. I had grown up sort of idolizing other guitar companies and things like that, right? Yeah. So it was kind of a new relationship with me and them, and they sent the 594, and I was like, this is incredible. And like, I never stopped playing my Les Paul, to be honest. Yeah. But you can't have that one either. But anyway, so we started a great relationship. I mean, the company is just so cool. I mean, the best people. It's very family oriented. It feels like a small company, even though it's a global brand, right? So I like that. Anyway, so around 2019 or so, they were like, hey, do you want to work on something together? We're looking to expand our bolt-on neck line of guitars, and we'd like you to come up with your ideal model of bolt-on neck guitar. I was like, whoa. So, they kind of gave me the keys to the kingdom, so to speak, to really get in there with Paul and the team and design something that kind of encapsulates a lot of my favorite guitars over the years. And
so still maple neck, you're a maple neck guy.
Yeah, maple neck, swamp ash body. The SSH thing has been in my guitar since I was 16.
Right.
And then I was like 10-inch radius, 22 frets, 2-post trim. We did some really cool switching options. This has a series parallel capability. You can also blend the pickups. You can blend all three. You can blend these two. So I think it has like 11 different options between the pushing and the pulling of the frets.
Okay.
And it's nice, lightweight. It's a really excellent professional quality workhorse guitar. And I've seen it on stage with everyone from Janet Jackson to Deep Purple.
Yeah, because you see guys like Errol Cooney, and also our mutual friend Eric Walls. I mean, we've seen a lot of pro working musicians use this as their main guitar because of the versatility.
Yeah, and that was the whole point. I mean, like, it works for me. It does everything I need it to do. I really feel like I hear my personality in the instrument. It's a very sort of like open, dynamic sounding guitar, but it also can do a lot of things for a lot of people. And honestly, I wanted folks to walk into a guitar store and be like, that's cool. And then look at the back, like, I don't know who that is, and I don't really care. But but who's this Mark Lettieri, whatever. This guitar is really great.
Yeah. I think the cool thing about this, though, and I think that they've done a good job in the sense that's always a challenge with signature instruments, is a lot of people have an aversion to whatever the artist is because the way that the branding is done, it's so obviously the artist. Whereas this is a very subtle look. and it's not too overbearing with letting you know that it's a signature instrument. So I think that in that sense, it's a lot easier to get people open to the idea of using it.
Well, we just wanted to make a great guitar. It wasn't about a celebrity or anything like that sort of thing. It was like, we need to make a great guitar that's going to enhance their line of guitars and just be a cool product.
But you're in a limited company. You got John Mayer, you got David Grissom, you've got you. Are there any other signature PRSs?
Well, there's Santana,
Monty,
there's
Sorry, left out some major.
Reed, I think Paul Jackson Jr., Orianthi. I mean, there's some legends that are playing those guitars, man.
Sure,
I mean,
sure.
So,
well, it's a gorgeous guitar. Again, not too many signature artists with PRS. It's not like a lot of other brands. So you must feel really proud to be one of the select few.
Yeah.
So most people probably knew you from Snarky Puppy before they maybe knew you as Mark Lettieri, or that was sort of the way that they kind of came into the fold.
So, yeah.
And I know you've told the story about how this all came to be, but if you could just kind of briefly, for maybe somebody who's learning of you for the first time, how did you come to be in Snarky Puppy? How is it all connected? I'd love to just hear just a brief summary of that, and then maybe we can get into some tunes.
Okay. Well, Snarky Puppy was the really cool local jazz fusion ensemble in the DFW, Dallas area. They had started the University of North Texas, which is in Denton, but a lot of the members were kind of migrating down into Dallas to do gigs, wedding bands, sessions, freelance, whatever it was. And so that's how I met the band and the members, and ended up on quite a few gospel sessions with Michael League. And I was just a fan of the group. You know, this was probably 2007. 2007, 8, and they were working a lot. They were touring, which, you know, the bands that I was in at the time weren't really doing that. So they were the cool band playing the really high level something. And so I would just go see them. You know, like, good on you guys, you're gonna go be famous or something, whatever. But as fate would have it, there was a weekend of shows where the other two guitar players in the band, Bob Lanzetti and Chris McQueen, just weren't available. Chris had another rock band that he was pursuing. Bob, I think, was in New York on like some cover band gigs that were just paying really great, so he didn't want to come down to Texas to do these shows. And so Mike called me. I don't even know if I was the first guitar player that he called to do the subs, but I was available and I wanted to do it. And so I learned, 13 some odd super hard songs in just a couple days, because he called me kind of at the last minute.
Right.
And I think I had a quick rehearsal with him in his apartment, and then we went and did a couple shows in like Hattiesburg, Mississippi, in New Orleans, Lafayette, Louisiana, out there. And it was just a blast. I mean, I was super stressed out trying to remember all the music, but the guys were very cool and accommodating. And after that, they, Michael kind of brought me into the fold, because I had a sound that, he was looking for to add to the band. So those shows would have been like early 2009. And I had guessed, sort of, not really guessed it, but I did play on their album in 2008, just as like a little, I guess you could say it was a guest, just a little session spot with some funky rhythm guitar and one tune. So I was sort of getting my way into there at that point, but didn't really think I'd ever be in the band or anything.
And were you still, you went to college at TCU?
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And so were you still in college at that point, or had you already?
No, I was out. We all kind of graduated around the same time. Some guys a little before, some guys a little after.
Kind of mid 2000s.
Yeah. So Michael and I and a few of the other guys are kind of all around the same age. So we were all playing in Dallas at the same time after college. And let's see. But, so I was coming from Fort Worth, and so I was kind of already in the gospel R&B scene, which was when I met Michael and some of those guys. So I was coming from Fort Worth, just making the drive the other direction on 30. They were coming south on 35. I was going east on 30. So to meet in Dallas. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. And the rest is history.
Yeah. Something like that.
And they've got so you get some Grammys under your belt.
A couple of those.
Yeah, and do you some people I've talked to that have won Grammys in some of these other interviews, they keep them in their laundry room. Do you have a special place where you keep yours?
I have. Here's the thing with having a band so large is that they only present you with one statue.
Okay.
So I've seen it. I think they're in Michael's studio at his house and where he lives. But the rest of us have the pins and the certificates and the things. So those are all in my wallet.
Got it. For Snarky Puppy, I want to start with a song that I think is the song that I first heard of them, which is "What About Me."
Yeah.
Many of us who are familiar with the band.
A sport.
Yeah. You're gonna get a little workout here, and I'm wondering if you can maybe tell us about how you approach that song. And one thing I'm curious about is, like, obviously there's the record,
right?
But then do you feel like you approach it differently when you're doing it live versus how you would in a session?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, we've played that song now for 10 years or so. And so
it originally came out in 2014, so 10 years ago.
Right. So we've done, the grooves differently. I've taken some liberties with the melodies and things like that. But there's parts you kind of have to play to make up the song. But I mean, really, Michael League wrote this whole thing essentially on guitar. It was like a very sort of guitaristic song. Yeah. So he came up with the chords and the melodies, and then it just kind of was up to us to interpret the tones and the exact, individual feel of all the stuff. But I mean, the sort of like the whole middle section of the song is like an open guitar solo, which Bob Lanzetti plays brilliantly on the record. And then live, and then there's a drum solo, which, on the record, Larnell just shreds, right? The drum solo is always there. The solo section in the middle could be anyone in the band, anyone, percussion, even violin, horn, whatever it is. So that's really cool to get to do that and the audience doesn't know who's gonna have the big moment in the middle.
Right.
It keeps it interesting. So I've definitely taken the solo a million times, varying degrees of success there, I'm sure. But yeah, the meat of the tune is, I guess maybe we'll play the first, a couple sections or something.
Yeah. Whatever you feel good about. I think just to give the people an idea of how you approach it, and we'll see who takes the solo in the middle section there.
No, probably nobody. I'll just be silent. We'll pretend it's a flute or something.
All right, let's jump in.
Cool. Play that part. I don't do it live.
Right.
But I think somebody did it on the record.
Somebody on the record?
So there it was. I did it. All right.
Well, as you said, it is a real exercise there. Like you're kind of everywhere on the fretboard. And what I like about this is it's got a great mix of some clean guitar rhythm parts. It's got some great kind of lead tones.
Sure.
What are you using today to kind of get that sound, and what did you use originally? I'm kind of curious on
well, we back up. So that was a Fender Stratocaster, 1999 Fender USA Strat.
Mm-hmm. The one that the natural
one that has the neck has since been replaced with a Don Grosh neck.
Oh, really?
That he made for me years ago. Because the original one just wouldn't hold true.
Got it.
In it, and it was like unusable. But that was my main guitar for quite a while too.
And that was a rosewood neck, wasn't it? Originally?
Was. Yeah, it was a rosewood neck, and it weighs a ton.
Okay.
It's like I don't know if it's swamp ash or just like northern ash or something, but that thing's like 9-10 pounds. Mm-hmm. Anyhow, so it was that guitar. I think I used a Fender Twin or something that belonged to the studio, which was kind of acting up. It was a little. It was a little off,
okay.
I think, but we got some good sounds out of it. And then pedal-wise, I think that would have been a J-Rocket Audio Designs Flex Drive.
I remember.
I was using the Flex Drive a whole lot. And
was the Flex Drive, was that the yellow one?
It's like an army green color.
Army green, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They don't make it anymore,
I remember. But it was in kind of the original style boxes. Yeah.
Huge. Excuse me. And then I probably, what else did I have on my board? I think I was using a TC Electronic Nova delay, probably.
Yeah, classic.
And I think that would have been really it. For that song. And then now, so what I just did there, not too much different. I have a TC Hall of Fame reverb that I've just had on. I'm using a MXR Joshua Echo for a quarter note delay. A little bit of compression from the J-Rocket Airchild. And the Melody, J-Rocket Melody Overdrive.
Which is your signature J-Rocket pedal. Yeah. So tell us about this pedal. What's the deal with the J-Rocket Melody Overdrive, the Mark Lettieri signature overdrive pedal?
Well, it's based off of a couple of their circuits that they used in like the Blue Note or the Animal. Or the Majestic. And then so we kind of tweaked that a little bit, and then we added a 6-band EQ instead of a tone knob.
Right. So there's a full graphic EQ section, which we'll get some B-roll to show it overhead so you can kind of see what we're talking about.
Yeah. So it's really great. I would say it's a low to medium gain overdrive. Definitely something you can leave on for the whole gig if you want, or I use it for medium gain riffs, melodies.
Yeah.
So I was using it for the melody of that song. And then for that big rock riff, the 5/4/4 thing, I hit the front end of the melody with the Keeley Angry Orange, which is a really cool pedal that's like a cross between a Big Muff and a DS1. And so I use it as like a fuzz lead boost.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Well, that's amazing. Well, I have some great news for people that are interested in Mark Lettieri's tone and the J-Rocket melody.
Like those guys that do the YouTube videos where it's like,
yeah, like the thumbnail guys. Yeah, it has a kind of the thumbnail guys.
I love that band.
Where they always look like they're like it's kind of
you'll never believe what happened.
Well, they are offering 30% off of the Melody, the B stock version. Now, apparently, and this happens as a pedal manufacturer, sometimes the enclosures, some of the paint just doesn't have, sometimes the screening is a little bit off. There's little tiny things that just don't make it absolutely perfect, but inside it's absolutely brand new.
Great.
A great way to get a Melody, save some dough, 30% off and free shipping on the Melody. Look at the code in the description and on screen. It'll take you right to that page where you can purchase the Melody at that great discount, great price on a great pedal. I figure it's 70% away from free. That's how you have to think about it.
Good.
70% away from free.
Excellent.
So very, very cool stuff. And of course, the Joshua Cool Pedal MXR,
it's
Angry
so cool.
Charlie.
Yeah.
These are pedals that you can check out. We'll also have a list of all of the gear that Mark is using today, so you can check that out, whether you want to go and buy it used, you want to go and buy it new. But I should recommend to people that if you are interested in buying used gear, one of the sponsors of the show is our friends over at the Sweetwater Gear Exchange, which is a third-party way to buy used gear. And one of the coolest things, Mark, I don't know if you knew this about them, but if you put your earnings on to a Sweetwater gift card, you don't have to pay any seller fee. So that basically saves you an extra 10%. Okay. And if you're somebody like me that's always buying new gear anyway, it's a great way to accumulate that money even quicker by saving that extra 10% and redeeming it on stuff that you would buy anyway. So check them out. I'm going to link that also in the description if you want to check out our friends at Sweetwater Gear Exchange. You want to get some of these pedals secondhand.
Rock and roll.
And, of course, get your 30% off your Melody if you're interested in that from our friends over at J-Rocket. But it should be said, if people don't know, that Mark actually has a signature chorus pedal that is very subtly a signature chorus pedal by the good folks at Jackson Audio called the New Wave. Now, I'm going to say one thing that's a little off script here, Mark.
Okay, all right.
But most pedal manufacturers, as it comes to chorus, don't have the balls to go analog chorus. And I'm saying this as another pedal manufacturer. They had the balls to go analog chorus. Now, there's some kids that don't get it. They're like, it's noisy. And you know what, kids? That's what analog chorus sounds like. Bucket Brigade. It's part of the game.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing sounding analog chorus. You're using it here. We're going to be using it a little bit later on some of the other songs. But tell us about how this pedal came to be with Jackson Audio.
They are Texas guys. And I was using a couple of their other things, like their fuzz pedal, one of their boost pedals, cool stuff.
Yeah, very cool stuff.
And was kind of helping them out with some demo videos. And they were like, well, hey, we're looking to launch a chorus pedal. Do you want to help us out, be part of it? You know, put your stamp on it. And I said, yeah, for sure. And the result was the new wave. And yeah, it was a lot of testing. I went up to their place a lot, and we got, really tried to make sure that it was doing all the things that we were wanting it to do. I kind of leave it in this one setting where I ramp between two speeds, which I think is actually the vibrato setting. Right. That I have set really slow, but then if I tap on this thing, it
kind of ramps up to a faster. Almost like a Leslie kind of thing.
Jellified. Yeah. So I swap between those. Those two settings all the time, and I pretty much just leave it there.
Yeah. Well, it's got a very quintessential 80s sort of, like CE1 style analog chorus, which I absolutely love. And they happen to be offering people who are viewing and listening to this interview 10% off, 90% away from free with the coupon code TGB10. That's the guitarist behind TGB10, 10% off and free shipping within the USA. We'll have all the details on screen in the description. Yes. So if you're interested in checking that out from Jackson Audio.
Yeah, it's really fun.
It is a very, very cool chorus. Again, most pedal companies are not brave enough to do chorus in the analog domain. Jackson was, so congrats to them. But the other thing I'd like to say is that if you are enjoying the sound of the beautiful voice of Mark Lettieri, and the less beautiful voice of Mason Marangella, and if you're enjoying the great guitar tones, they are all recorded with our friends over at Roswell Pro Audio. Now, we're using the K87, the minis, for our vocal microphone, and we're using the Polaris for the 70s twin reverb that we have in the other room. Sounds absolutely amazing. Just wanted to shout them out as sponsors of the show. Doing an amazing job making sure that we're sounding good and looking good with the cameras to match the beautiful audio sound. So thank you to them over at Roswell for making it happen. But I now want to move into, Mark, some of your music. We've talked about Snarky Puppy. We've talked about the Fearless Flyers, but we haven't talked about Mark Lettieri. So the newest record is Can I Tell You Something?
Correct.
Right? Yeah. And this song is called Shimmy Tiger.
Shimmy Tiger, I know.
And I'm noticing that you got a Shimmy Tiger right here.
Oh, yeah. My manager made these pins. They're great. I love them.
But your manager probably didn't do the graphic, did he?
No, he didn't. The graphic was done by Anna Lang, and she is in Sardinia, and she is a brilliant designer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that only the Sardinians could create.
Well,
they're known for their graphic designer.
She did an incredible album cover of me as a tiger.
Right.
It's really, really cool.
We'll make sure that we have that on screen for everybody to enjoy. But Shimmy Tigers, tell me, first of all, before we get into the song specifically, tell me about the impetus for the record. What was sort of the vision? What were you going for? And then maybe we can get into the song.
All right. I just had a lot of tunes written that I thought were really cool. And they were all kind of mined from various places. Some of them actually had their origins in little Instagram gear demos or something like that. And then other ones were just ones that I came together out of the blue. And I wanted to make a record that sort of encapsulated a lot of what I feel like I do as a writer. There are people that kind of know me as a rhythm guitar player or a baritone rhythm guitar player, but I like melodies too and interesting hooks and things like that. And so Can I Tell You Something actually it's something that my daughter says all the time. Can I tell you something? I'm like, yeah, sure. And then you get a great story from a 7-year-old. But anyway, point is, I wanted to kind of have a record that maybe had a little bit more hooks on the melody side. If maybe you'd only heard Deep the Baritone sessions, he's like, oh, he's this riff monster guy. It's like, yeah, I do that, but I also like to play, stretch out, play some melodies and things like that. So this record was kind of a little bit of both. There is baritone stuff on it, of course.
But you also have some pop songs you sort of adapted to instrumental.
Right. Yeah, we did that. I did a version of Time After Time, which I've always loved that song. But yeah, Shimmy Tiger was kind of like kind of like the guitar pop song that I felt like I had never written but always wanted to write. I was listening to a lot of the Tubes and stuff like that when I was doing so like that kind of 80s new wave rock thing.
Yeah.
And so this song kind of has a little bit of that and maybe a little bit of Prince or something like that. But of course it's 6.5 minutes long, you know. There's journeys. So I don't
radio friendly is what you're saying.
Yeah, sure. Well, do they even have a radio? So I don't know. I'll play a couple parts. We don't have to do the whole thing, but
yeah. And before we get into it, what were you using for the tones for this?
That song was This Red Fiore.
This very one.
Through a, well, let's see. It depends on the part. The melodies and solos were the PRS Hendrix 50 amp.
All right, cool.
Through a Sur reactive load.
Okay.
With a couple different J Rocket pedals for the gain. The rhythm track was kind of interesting. It was, I think I used the nailer with the gain channel on, and it was boosted by this really unique fuzz pedal called an Aperion fuzz.
Okay.
I'm saying the guy's name wrong, but I think he's a European designer, and it's a really funky. I'll send you a picture of it. So
okay.
But what I wanted to achieve with that rhythm tone was like that kind of old 80s rhythm, like deluxe turned all the way up sound.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose I could have just done that.
Right.
But this version actually felt better in the track.
Nice.
And then there's some like clean DI parts. So I don't know, just depending on how you guys want to.
Yeah, however you feel like doing an arrangement for us, we'd love to hear it and get into the playing a little bit.
All right, cool. was not in tune, but that's okay. Sometimes I get excited when I bend and it goes a little sharp, but.
Well, I love like
music.
I can hear like the Jeff Beck influence. I can hear the Prince influence. That was incredible. And for all the leads on that was all melody.
That was mostly the J-Rocket Dude pedal.
Dude, okay.
It's actually
the Dumble inspired J-Rocket pedal.
So. So it's a little more high gain. And then for the sort of bigger lead there at the end, it was both of them. So the melody is in front of the dude.
Got it. Got it. So hitting it a little harder in the front end there.
Right.
Awesome. The other thing I should mention here, because, as people know, as part of the theme of the interviews is that we're always having players, wherever possible, playing to the original multi-tracks. And one company that makes this possible so that we can actually feature original music and have players replaying their parts are our friends over at Moises, which is an AI company that has a program that allows you to isolate different instruments for the purposes of practicing, but also in our case, in the purpose of being able to have these artists re-record their parts and removing certain sections, or even sending sections to artists, which I've done on many occasions, to help them relearn their parts. Because in many cases, a lot of these session guys that we're talking to, maybe even you included in this, Mark, you haven't thought about these parts that some, like when we get to Kirk Franklin here in a little bit, you probably haven't played that song since the day of the session. A lot of times we have to go back, we have to relearn our parts.
What we did.
And even the Berklee College of Music has been using Moises, this AI program, as a teaching tool, so that students are able to, add click tracks to various tracks that they learn. They can use this to remove parts, to be able to overdub, things of that nature. And so we are using this as our go-to in order to generate tracks. And we even did that in some cases in some of the music that we recorded here today. Cool. And I highly recommend that people check it out. They have various different versions. They have a free trial. You can check all that information out on the screen. And I have the hi-fi package, which allows me to extract hi-fi versions of various tracks, be able to remove things. And I've just found it to be a great practice tool for me, where I can pretend like I'm Larry Carlton and I'm playing along with Steely Dan.
I wish we could all pretend like we're Larry Carlton.
Right. I get to, at least in my mind, I get to be like Larry Carlton. And it's a really amazing tool. So please do check it out. Moises, I've tried all the things. I've tried Isotope. I've tried everything. None of them quite make it as good or as realistic as I would want, with exception to Moises. So please do check them out. All the credentials, all the websites will be listed on screen and in the description. Mark, let's move on to another tune of yours, which is probably one of, I think for me, one of the Mount Rushmore clean tones, which is the song Montreal. All right. It's got a really great opening that I would love to hear.
We'll just play a little of that.
And we could hear a little bit. I want to hear the story as well. So we can hear maybe a little bit. And this one you have a tone print on called Montreal that you did with TC Electronics. So if you have a TC Electronic tone print equipped device,
there you go,
you can upload that to it, such as the Hall of Fame 2 we've got here. Also, as part of the listeners and viewers of the content today of the interview, TC has generously given us a Plethora X5, so the 5 effect version. Yes, and Mark is going to sign it.
That's right.
And we're going to give it away to one of the lucky viewers. All you need to do to be eligible to win this Plethora, signed by Mark, is you need to follow Mark on Instagram. You need to follow TC Electronic on Instagram. And you need to follow Vertex Effects on Instagram. You follow those 3. And we are going to post multiple videos of different performance sections of the interview today on Instagram. All you need to do is ensure that you follow us 3 and tag a friend who you think would be interested in this content in any one of those videos that we're posting on Instagram, and they are automatically eligible to win. We'll choose a winner 14 days after the video goes live. So you get a free pedal signed by Mark, and you'll get some great tones out of it.
Yeah, dig it.
And tell me, what was the gear that originally was used other than the Hall of Fame that you used for that? Was that must have pre-existed PRS?
Yeah, this was I recorded this in 2015.
Okay.
And so, it was the Don Garage. I think the amp was a Pure 64 Mean Street, which is one of my favorite clean tone amps to have. The Hall of Fame reverb, I think it was a TC Nova delay. I'm using a Walrus Mako for the big delay today.
Okay.
I can't remember if there was a compressor on or not. I may have been using a RAF Mirage compressor at that point. I don't know.
Okay. That would have been early days for that compressor. You would have been an early adopter.
I remember it being on my board at that time. So maybe it was on, maybe it wasn't. The jury's out. But I'm using the little Airchild J-Rocket one today. It sounds really good. I don't even really notice that it's on. I think maybe I'm becoming a compressor player. I don't really know.
Do you remember how the kind of this I think the intro piece is kind of like the most iconic.
That was just kind of like a semi-planned, but not really. Like I had some sort of chordal concepts that I wanted to do, but the way it kind of ordered itself was just kind of on the fly. But yeah, I mean, the tune's just a ballad. It's kind of like a sort of a jazz blues kind of ballad. I titled it After the City because that's where I was when I wrote it. It was just kind of like missing home, you know. Yeah. So it's a tender song. And then we went into the studio and recorded it.
And it was just recorded in Texas, or?
Yeah, we did it at Fort Worth Sound. We did the band at Fort Worth Sound, and then Sean's piano was done at a place called Patrick McGuire Recording in Arlington, Texas, which unfortunately is no longer there, but that's a great little studio.
Well, it sounds incredible, and it's one of the for me, one of the Mount Rushmores of great Strat clean tones. So
thanks.
I'm anxious to hear you do it and get to witness it here in person.
Yeah, I think it goes like this. And the band goes in. Yeah, so that's that song.
Did you know
that's the intro?
Did you know that you had so it wasn't planned? You kind of had the form. Of
the song. Well, I mean, basically, this is the melody.
Right.
I'm playing it rubato there, and then the change is. There you go. But this, whatever I was doing, that was I probably did a couple takes or something.
Yeah.
Varying sort of degrees of success on that.
But did you determine that it was going to be an intro, before you stepped into the studio, or did?
Yeah, I thought it would be kind of a cool way to start and just play the A section, and then the band comes in after the first time through.
I love that.
Oh, thanks.
I love that. Yeah, and actually, that whole Spark and Echo is a really great record, and something that I have on my kind of saved playlist that just kind of goes in circulation.
That's a favorite record of mine. I'm really proud of that one.
Yeah, you did great.
Thanks.
You did great.
Thanks.
But I want to complete our song selection and conversation today with something that a lot of people may have no idea that you were involved in, sort of an Easter egg in the Mark Lettieri catalog, which is that you played with arguably one of the most distinguished gospel artists of all time, Kirk Franklin.
Yeah.
And the song Love Theory, which is a huge hit for him, you know, I think, 50 to 100 millions of plays potentially, maybe more,
Yeah.
And that was back in 2019, although presumably you may have recorded that sometime before then.
I'm sure we did. Yeah.
But tell me about how you got involved with Kirk Franklin and how that session came about.
Yeah, I first met Kirk through another great gospel singer friend of mine, Anthony Evans, who used to sing in Kirk's choir and then is doing his own music. And so I had been playing with Anthony for ages, doing sessions and playing in his live band. And so he recommended me, I think, to Kirk to do a gig or two or something. And so that's how I sort of got into the fold. But then maybe around 2015 or so, he started calling me for sessions, and that's when I started working on his records. And so I've been on like 2 or 3 by now, I think, and some other things that he's produced for other artists like Tori Kelly, and he did a thing with the Jacksons that I got to play on, which is pretty cool, and Tamala Mann and Elevation, Maverick City Church, and a lot of other things, a lot of cool stuff that he's done. I've been a part of now. So he's got a studio in Arlington, and that's where he does the majority of his recording and production work, I think. So, so this was just a session like any other time coming in. They had, I think, pretty much the form of the song done. I think they may have done some work ahead of time on an earlier version, or maybe did a little bit of work afterwards on this version. But yeah, I came in and plugged into my Kemper. And we got a tone. I think the guitar I used, it was pre-Fiore, so I think I used that Strat Garage hybrid guitar on this, I think. And then, so we went in and, they played the chorus and I heard it and said, okay, I got some ideas.
Yeah.
Roll tape.
Yeah.
And we did a couple passes or two and we went on to the next, went on to the verse or whatever. I think we probably did the chorus first and then the verse. Sometimes I like to work backwards with that kind of stuff. And that was the session.
Yeah. And so everything was in the Kemper. There was no like extra pedals you would have been using at that time.
There's chorus on the guitars, which probably came from my Line 6 M5.
Okay.
I don't think I used the chorus on the Kemper.
But today we may use the
Today
new
we'll
wave.
use the new wave, yeah. And because I think the Line 6 chorus I probably dialed up was like an old analog chorus anyway. Because the song kind of has that 80s R&B nudge to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with my parts, I wanted to kind of echo.
Yeah, it kind of seems like some of the comping kind of seems like a Paul Jackson Jr.
It's all that
kind of thing.
It's Paul Jackson Jr., it's David Williams,
it's
Lukather, it's all of those studio heroes of mine.
Yeah, well, you definitely like with one of the comping parts, it's kind of like using kind of the common tones thing.
Yep,
where
playing all around the root.
Yeah, and it sounds really, really great, of course. And I really love it. And we discussed in advance of today about kind of breaking down some of the parts, kind of revisiting the track, and you kind of recalled all these other pieces that you can barely hear. So today we're going to really focus on Mark's mix, where we bring out some of those pieces of the track.
I remember kind of what I did and where I every time I go listen to the song, I kind of remember where I was in that headspace anyway. So the parts came back pretty quickly. There's some cool stuff in there.
You said there's like 3 different layers.
Yeah, there's a few different layers in there. So I can play them all, I guess.
Okay, well, if you don't mind, we'll pull up the track and get you to do your thing and get a little chorus on there and go for it.
All right, sweet.
Brothers and sisters, I want to welcome you back to life, back to the one that can make your next chapter your best chapter. Hallelujah.
How can it be that you love the most unlovable part of me? How could you see your life was the only gift I'll ever need to be free? It's amazing with you. I win even if I lose. Everything's working for my good always.
Come on.
He says it.
really mean it this time.
I don't wanna love nobody but you.
Jesus.
I don't wanna love nobody but you. I don't wanna love nobody but you.
Let me tell you what he does.
He saves the day.
Come on.
He will come in.
He won't let you down, but
He won't. That's not what superheroes do.
see, I will never find a love like this. Forever and the day. Let me say it again. It feels so good.
That's not what superheroes do.
Yes. Hallelujah. For the rest of my life. Everybody say,
Nobody but you. I don't wanna love nobody but you. I don't wanna love nobody but you.
you're the Savior.
I don't wanna love nobody but you. I don't wanna love nobody but you. I don't wanna love nobody but you.
Anyway, so those changes. Bridge there. Like, what are those? Okay, but there they were.
Man, but it sounds incredible, and absolutely, like you can hear the Paul Jackson, the Steve Lukather, the
Yeah. Well,
influence
there's
on
a
it, but it's
third
amazing.
part. There's a third part in the second chorus that just goes. What is that sort of David Williams? thing?
Yeah.
And then the bridge was actually recorded from one of the another session. Great guitar player in Dallas, Johnny Murray, did that, and so they kept that, and then I did the rest of the tunes. So yeah, it's cool, man. That song's really great. It's really fun to play and kind of remember all those little parts, and
Was Kirk there for the session, or?
Oh yeah, he's there for all of them.
Yeah.
He's pretty hands on too. I mean, he's very like he knows what he wants, but he likes to see the musician express themselves. And he's very open to kind of their interpretation of how to
That's awesome.
play on the stuff. So yeah,
That's awesome. Well, Mark, I can't thank you enough for making time in your busy schedule between a residency at San Francisco Jazz and heading back to the airport, fitting us in and playing through some of these songs. And, I'm sure that you hear it from other people, but you are really kind of one of the stewards of tone of, at least my generation. There's a few of you that are carrying the torch, you and Corey Wong and a few others, but you're the guitar heroes of this generation. So I'm so appreciative to you and everything that you do.
Dude,
and
thanks for having me out.
And just making tone great. And just thank you, man, for
thank you.
everything that you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sure,
And Mark, to finish us off today,
I'll play a
to
little
complete
bit.
us, can you play a little something that we can just fade out on and end the interview on today?
Yeah, you got the little rocket.
Something we might recognize.
You might know. All right.